Hey, what's up everybody? Coach Kyle here, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for future content, look back at old videos, there's a bunch of them, and if you find this especially interesting, please share it. We're going to talk about the cool down today. And when I say cool down, I'm talking about super easy 5 to 15 minute walk, jog after a strenuous bout of exercise. So after a tempo run or a track workout or after a 5K, for example. So, and we're going to compare passive versus active. So that's the active. The active is doing a jog, like the track is 1 mile away from my house. So I have a 1 mile perfect cool down, versus doing nothing. And is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Passive versus active. So this is a review of the literature that I've come across, and it looked at a bunch of different studies, and it wanted to know like how many studies found a positive benefit, neutral, or no benefit. So there are a few categories: sports performance, psychological effects, physiological effects, and then long-term effects. So looking at sports performance, we're talking about no significant difference or inconclusive effect. Looking at sports performance for same day. So we're talking like if you have 4 hours between races. There were no studies that found a positive, no studies found that doing a 1 to 2 mile jog after a 5K in the morning would improve your performance for a afternoon or evening race. Next day performance, same. It's not, probably doesn't matter. You can do the mile jog, you don't have to. It's not going to benefit you next day. Psychological effects like mood, self-perception, and sleep. Again, nothing. 12 studies found that there wasn't really any benefit either, or negative side effect either way of doing a cool down versus doing nothing for your mood, self-perception, and sleep. Long-term effects like injury prevention and adaptive response. So injury prevention, increasing your risk of injury, or adaptive response, how much you benefit, how much you adapt from a workout. One study each for a positive difference effect, and a few studies for no difference. And then we get to like physiological effects. There's tons of studies on this category, but most again found that it doesn't really matter. For blood lactate, doing a cool down does decrease your blood lactate levels, but it doesn't actually increase your muscle tissue lactate levels in the same way. So, anyway, your lactate level will go down by itself anyway. Delayed onset muscle soreness. There was actually 2 studies that showed a positive effect, but 14 that showed no real benefit or negative. Same goes with indirect markers of muscle damage. There were a few that suggested it helped reduce muscle damage, but there were more that didn't really find any effect at all. Also for the immune system and the cardiovascular and respiratory system, there were some benefits, but there was more neutral studies when it came to stiffness and range of motion, muscle glycogen resynthesis, sweat rate, thermal regulation, hormone concentrations. 5 studies found, where are we at? What column? Muscle glycogen synthesis was reduced with a cooldown. And that kind of makes sense because the cooldown is further depleting that glycogen. So that's kind of the quick rundown of passive, like no cooldown versus doing a light cooldown after exercise. The evidence, to quote, most evidence indicates that active cooldowns do not significantly reduce muscle soreness or improve the recovery of indirect markers of muscle damage, neuromuscular contractile properties, stiffness, range of motion, hormones, etc. In summary, based on the empirical evidence currently available, active cooldowns are largely ineffective for improving most psychophysiological markers of post-exercise recovery, but may nevertheless offer some benefits compared with a passive cooldown. So doing something is a little better than doing nothing, but it's not gonna like make or break your injury risk or your training adaptations or anything. So like when I have athletes who are doing a morning workout, if they're on their lunch and they're doing a workout, I'm usually okay with them skipping the cool down, because as I think I've explained here, doing it doesn't really matter. It's nice because it increases your it's a little bit of running on fatigued legs, so it's a little bit of accumulated fatigue, which is good for you. It's a training stimulation, but it's not going to make or break the workout. Never skip a warm-up, but if you're short on time for any reason, go ahead and skip this cool down. It's not that big of a deal. So let me know in the comments what you think. I know this is kind of contrary to what many believe, but I mean, that's what the research says. So I mean, typically I suggest keep doing what you're doing if it's working for you. But now you know. And as always, you keep running, I'll keep coaching.